Have you ever noticed that most of the times you've been hurt, broken, or lost your way began the moment you cared too much? Picture yourself holding a thin glass goblet inside it, the most precious thing you possess, your emotions. You extend it to the world trusting that all will handle it with care, and yet a careless touch or a deliberate strike is enough to send it shattering to the ground. This is the paradox modern society plants in our minds, that caring, empathy, understanding, open-heartedness is a sign of strength, when in reality it often becomes the very door through which others enter, control, and manipulate. We Americans have grown up in a culture that glorifies the open heart, but in the age of social media, where every glance, every smile, every sigh can be counted in likes and comments, that heart becomes public property, easy to exploit. The real danger is not simply that others can see your emotions, but that they learn how to use them to guide you. Jung once said, "What you neglect in the shadows will become your fate." If you abandon sovereignty over your emotional life, someone else will write your story for you. The answer is not to grow numb, nor to build a cold, impenetrable wall. The answer is mastery, choosing when to reveal, when to withhold, when to step into the light, and when to retreat into the quiet sanctum of the self. This is not emotional suppression. It is an art of strategic coolness I call the cold art. In this work, we will not speak of denying emotion, for repression only breeds a dangerous shadow that will one day rise to haunt you. Instead, we will learn to stand on the banks of our own inner river, watching the currents of anger, fear, longing pass by without being swept away. We will learn to see when others cast emotional bait and how to let it fall into the void. Above all, we will cultivate the inner citadel, a fortress of will and serenity, its walls unbreached by the storms outside. Perhaps you are thinking, that sounds noble, but can I really do it? I'm used to reacting instantly, to explaining myself when misunderstood, to chasing after those who withdraw from me. The truth is, you can. Not because of a trick or a quick fix, but because once you see the mechanics of the emotional power game, you can no longer play it blindly. Imagine walking into a meeting, a date, or a casual conversation and feeling no pull from suspicious glances, provocative remarks, or loaded silences. Instead of rushing to respond, you wait. You observe. You decide if and when you will give a piece of your inner world. In that moment, you cease to be a follower of others' rhythm. You become the one who sets the tempo. And in this world, whoever holds the tempo holds the power. The framework I propose rests on 3 pillars: recognition and decoding of triggers, knowing precisely what makes you react and why. The strategy of silence and distance, learning that silence can be an offensive move, not a retreat. Reframing self-worth, anchoring your value in an inner compass, where the highest approval comes from yourself, not from the crowd. In the next part, we begin with the first pillar, recognizing and decoding your triggers. For until you know where your emotional switch is, you will allow anyone to press it. We will explore how Jung connected emotional reactions to the collective unconscious, and how you can transform those reflexes into opportunities to strengthen your inner sovereignty. Keep your mind open, but let the door of the heart close at the right time. From this moment on, we are not simply speaking of not caring, we are learning to reshape the very way you exist in the world. And believe me, when you master this, the world will respond to you in an entirely different way. Picture a familiar moment. Someone says something, and suddenly your heart sinks. Heat rushes to your face, and before you've had time to think, you've reacted. Maybe it's a furious text, you fire off a long-winded explanation to make sure they know you're not wrong, or a late-night call demanding answers. In that instant, you are no longer steering the moment, your emotions are. Jung once said, "What we do not make conscious will return to us as fate." Every time you react unconsciously, you're placing a piece of your fate in someone else's hands. Let's begin with this truth. Every emotional reaction has a switch. It is rarely created by the present moment. It often originates from an old wound, a childhood criticism, a memory of being abandoned, or a betrayal you never fully faced. These switches live deep in the unconscious, and others, sometimes by accident, sometimes with intent, need only brush against them for you to light up like a program machine. Americans raised in a competitive, expressive culture often believe that getting it all out is the path to resolution. But expression is not always liberation. Often speaking too quickly hands someone the map to your most sensitive terrain. Once they hold that map, you are no longer the guide. So how do we break this loop? The first step is to watch yourself as a witness, not as a victim. For the next few days, Whenever you feel a strong surge anger, fear, shame, pause, and ask, which switch just got flipped? Where have I felt this before? This is like standing before what Jung called the mirror of the shadow, seeing the unconscious in motion. As you practice spotting your triggers, you'll notice something revealing. Many present situations are just reruns of an old script with new actors. You might be arguing with your boss, but inside you feel the same as when your father once shouted at you. This recognition creates distance. You are no longer fighting the person in front of you, but meeting the unhealed memory within yourself. And that is when power returns to your hands. Recognition, however, is not enough. You must learn the art of strategic distance, something Machiavelli might have practiced, but which Jung would infuse with psychological depth. This distance is not a total retreat or a mask of icy detachment. It is the creation of a safe space in which you can observe and choose your response. At this level, silence is no longer a sign of weakness, but a deliberate act of control. Imagine someone throws a jab at you during a party. Instead of replying instantly, you smile lightly, keep your gaze calm, and continue observing. In that moment, you send an unspoken message, I'm not playing this game. That distance robs the other person of their advantage while you keep your heartbeat steady. This is the moment your inner citadel, the fortress of the self, begins to rise. Yet to maintain distance without falling into isolation, you need another pillar redefining your self-worth. As long as you seek validation outside yourself, you will remain easy to lead astray. Jung emphasized the need for an internal frame of reference, a self strong enough not to collapse when misunderstood or rejected. You can begin by writing down your 3 core values, and when faced with a challenge, ask, does this reaction serve my core values? If the answer is no, you already know whether to speak or to walk away. The fascinating thing is that once you truly master your emotions, your environment begins to change. Those who once found it easy to manipulate you will feel their power slipping away. They will either withdraw or adapt their behavior to respect your new boundaries. At the same time, you will start attracting those who honor your calm and discipline. This is the natural law of group psychology. The energy you radiate determines the kind of people who appear in your life. I want you to know, this journey will not always be easy. There will be times you feel lonely when your distance is mistaken for coldness, but this is the filtering stage. Shallow connections will fall away, leaving space for the relationships that truly matter. And this is where I invite you to join a community of people committed to leading themselves from within. Share your stories, your challenges, your small victory, because when one person learns to master their emotions, they unconsciously give others permission to do the same. We are not simply learning to stop caring. We are learning to care selectively, directing our energy toward what truly nourishes our soul and our purpose. In the next chapter, we will dive deep into the strategy of silence and distance, not as a wall of isolation, but as a tool that commands respect and natural authority. I will show you how your silence can speak louder than words, and how to keep your distance while retaining the warmth essential for real connection. Because when you master the space between yourself and others, you not only protect yourself, you also open the door for the best things in life to walk in. There's a subtle paradox Jung often hinted at. People tend to fall into the deepest traps precisely when they believe they are truly connecting with someone. In the early stages of a relationship, whether romantic, platonic, or professional, our minds can be swept into a hypnotic dance of emotions. Quick compliments, premature vulnerability, eyes that seem to see straight through you. All of it feels like sunlight in the middle of winter, warming you into opening the door of your soul, forgetting that cold winds can slip in through the same opening. These are early signs of an emotional snare. Premature trust. They offer you their deepest secrets too soon, creating the illusion of soul-level intimacy, an unspoken invitation for you to lower your guard. Excessive attention early on, lavish gestures, or constant communication flood your brain with dopamine and oxytocin chemicals that soften reason and heighten attachment. Manufactured urgency. They make the connection feel like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity you can afford to miss, pushing you out of observation mode into reaction mode. Push-pull communication. Praise is interwoven with subtle jabs, creating an emotional rhythm that leaves you craving their approval. Jung would describe this as another person unconsciously touching your shadow, the unhealed parts of you, the yearning for understanding, or the fear of abandonment. Without recognizing it, you can find yourself investing emotionally far sooner than is wise. And once you've invested, you'll often ignore warning signs like a train barreling downhill with no brakes. So how do you protect yourself without losing warmth? The answer lies in the principle of balanced distance, allowing the relationship to grow organically over time while keeping your deepest emotions and most sensitive personal details guarded until trust has been proven through time and experience. You don't need to shut yourself off. You simply choose what to share and what to keep. One practical way to do this is to set a period of observation. For the first 3 to 6 months of any new connection, focus on observing rather than revealing. Watch how they treat others, how they respond to rejection, and how they speak about people who are no longer in their lives. How they act toward the absent often reveals more truth than the words they offer you directly. You're not just playing defense here, you're building the ability to sense someone's true energy. When you don't rush to bond, you start to notice repeating patterns, hear the silences between their words, and discern whether their care comes from respect or from a desire to control. This is the level of awareness Jung would call observing the shadow from the outside, remaining outside its gravitational pull. I know in fast-paced, competitive American culture, slowing down can feel like you're losing your chance. But remember, a real opportunity never vanishes simply because you took more time to see it clearly. In fact, patience will naturally filter out 90% of the situations most likely to cost you emotional sovereignty. And if you've read this far, know that you are not alone. There's an entire community of people learning to love wisely and connect selectively, sharing experiences, strategies, and even the times they stumbled, so that we all grow stronger. You're welcome to share your own story or a trap signal you've encountered, because sometimes a small insight from you could save someone else from a dangerous spiral. In the next part, we'll go deeper into the strategy of mastering emotional space, where you not only avoid traps, but also create an energetic field that makes manipulators think twice before approaching. We'll explore how to make your presence itself a safe zone for you and a mirror that causes those with false intentions to walk away. Because when you master this art, you don't just protect your heart, you elevate the way you step into every relationship. There's a truth Jung might have smiled at. Emotional power is not simply about protecting yourself, but about mastering the rhythm of interaction, like a conductor who decides when the music swells and when the silence falls. To see this clearly, we need to look at ordinary moments where principles that seem to belong only in psychology, books are quietly at work every day. Let's begin with work. Have you noticed that in a meeting, the person who speaks the least is often the one most listened to? In the fast-paced environment of American corporate culture, everyone rushes to share ideas and secure their moment in the spotlight. But those who regulate their presence, who don't react instantly, who don't reveal all their thoughts at once, compel others to guess, to respect, and even to seek out their opinion. This is not about playing hard to get it, it's about creating a space of authority. You appear with clarity and selectivity, making each word you speak carry weight. In the family, the principle becomes even clearer. A parent who reacts strongly to every action of their child, from breaking a glass to talking back quickly, becomes predictable and eventually ignored. But a parent who uses calm to observe, first choosing the right moment to respond, teaches not just discipline, but the deeper lesson of inner control. The child learns that respect doesn't come from fearing punishment, it comes from facing someone who cannot be easily shaken, yet stands firm in values and actions. In public life, this principle can save you from many tense situations. If someone criticizes you openly, on social media, or in a public setting, reacting emotionally in the moment will only feed the fire. But if you remain silent, observe, and let truth reveal itself through your actions over time, you'll see the other person either retreat or reveal their own nature. Jung once said, "The shadow will reveal itself if we are patient enough to look." Patience here is the kind of strength the impulsive will never possess. So how do you apply this rhythm control principle in real life? Insert a pause before reacting. In any conversation or conflict, give yourself at least 35 seconds before responding. This brief space helps filter emotion and preserve your initiative. Share selectively. At work, reveal what's necessary to achieve the goal. In the family, share what builds trust. In social settings, share just enough to maintain healthy rapport. Observe others' responses, listen not only to their words, but watch their body language, how they treat others, and how they behave when no one is paying attention. Keep the less is more principle. You don't need to show up to every debate, reply to every message immediately, or explain every decision. Scarcity increases value. I want you to picture this: you are a lighthouse in the night sea. Your light doesn't chase every passing ship, it shines steadily, powerfully, so that ships must navigate toward you. When you master your light, your energy, and your presence, you will never have to chase anyone to be seen. And this is why I invite you into our community space for those learning to live with intentional presence, free from emotional strings, building their value through each interaction. Share your story: the last time you chose silence over reaction. How did it change the outcome? Your story might be the torch that lights the way for someone else. In the next part, we'll go deeper into the art of setting boundaries without confrontation, a skill that not only protects you, but makes others naturally adjust their behavior in your presence. This is the shift from defense to leadership, from holding the line to setting the pace in every relationship. When you master this, you won't just be respected, you'll be recognized as someone with an inner gravity that needs no effort to prove itself. Jung often reminded us of this truth: mastering the outer world begins with mastering the inner one. Many people try to change circumstances, try to change others, yet overlook the key that lies within their own breath and awareness. When your mind is like a rippling lake, its reflection is distorted. But when the water is still, everything becomes clear. That's why before you step into any emotionally charged situation, a heated argument, a high-pressure meeting, or a message that makes your heart race, I want you to try the 3-step awareness and breath exercise. Step 1. Identify the moment an emotion rises. Name it: I am feeling angry, I am feeling anxious, or I am feeling threatened. Simply naming it creates space between you and the feeling. Jung called this creating distance from the inner shadow, seeing it as an object rather than letting it take possession of you. Step 2, 478, deep breathing. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds, hold for 7 seconds. Exhale slowly through your mouth for 8 seconds. Repeat at least 3 cycles. Neuroscience confirms this breathing pattern activates the parasympathetic nervous system, shifting your body and mind out of reactive mode and back into clarity and self-command. Step 3, ask the strategic question. Before responding, ask: will this action serve my long-term goal? Or if I stay silent now, what will happen? This question shifts you from emotional impulse to strategic choice, the kind of pause Machiavelli called delaying to win. This practice doesn't just help you extinguish the fire when emotions flare, it trains your mind to become less easily manipulated. With consistent practice, people will begin to notice that you're not easily pulled into emotional games, and that very fact makes you a quiet force of gravity. Try it right now. As soon as you finish this section, close your eyes, go through all 3 steps, then write down how you feel afterward. You'll notice the space between stimulus and response has widened, and that is the power space. Jung spoke of the place where you choose your action instead of being led by reaction. I want to invite you to share your experience with the community. The first time you applied this exercise, what difference did you notice? Do you have a story where staying calm completely changed the outcome? Leave it in the comments, because your story might be the thread that connects and inspires thousands of others who are seeking self-mastery. And remember, this is only one of many techniques we will explore together. In the next part, I'll show you how to build invisible fences around your energy and time so that others understand your presence is a privilege, not a default. When you do this, you won't just be respected. You'll cause others to adjust how they treat you even before you say a word. There's a fine line between emotional clarity and emotional coldness, and if you cross it, what you lose is not just connection, but some of the deepest parts of yourself. Jung once said, "The one who cannot touch their own feelings will never touch the soul of another." This means that if you turn emotional detachment into a permanent fortress, it will not only keep your enemies out, it will also lock out those who truly love you. I've seen many people, after learning to be emotionless as a form of self-protection, accidentally turn it into a fixed mask. They believe silence is safety, but over time that silence stops being a strategy. It becomes a real distance, eroding intimacy. You stop sharing small joys with the person you love. You stop responding when a friend needs a word of encouragement. You start to believe, "I don't need anyone," and in doing so, you truly lose the circle of connection that nourishes you. At work, this can make colleagues see you as a cold, efficient machine, effective but unapproachable. In family life, loved ones may feel you are here, but absent, leading to cracks that are hard to repair. And in love, holding an impenetrable shell for too long will make your partner feel like they are in love with a wall. Jung would say this is when your shadow slips in fear of being hurt, disguising itself as pride, which ultimately isolates you. Excessive coldness is not power, it is fear wearing armor. True power lies in your ability to open the door when you choose and close it when necessary. What you need is emotional flexibility. Think of it like a well-hinged door you control when to open and when to close. With outsiders, you may keep strategic distance. But with your inner circle, your family, trusted friends, your true community, you must allow yourself to be fully present, to express and to connect. Here's a small exercise. Write down 3 people whose loss of true connection you would regret for the rest of your life. Then ask yourself, when was the last time I intentionally shared something meaningful with them? If your answer leaves you silent, take it as a warning. Call them, send a heartfelt message, or simply sit down with them, no phone, no rush, and listen. This is not weakness. This is selectivity, choosing who is worthy of your emotional presence. I want to hear from you. On your journey of emotional discipline, have you ever realized you were becoming too distant? What did you do to restore balance? Share it in the comments because your story might be the wake-up call for someone walking the same path. And remember, in the next part, we will explore the art of withdrawal while maintaining influence, how to make your absence felt and your return impossible to ignore. This is the level where not only power, but respect finds its way to you. Here's your closing segment translated into American English with a Carl Jung-inspired tone, keeping the emotional depth and philosophical resonance intact. Jung often reminded us the inward journey is the most courageous path, for it demands that we face ourselves. And I believe that throughout this video, you felt that mastering your emotions is not merely a defensive skill, it is an art of living, a way of preserving your energy, your freedom, and your identity. But this art becomes whole only when you can pair clarity with compassion, when you know when to close the door and when to open your arms. The world will always test you. There will always be people who try to pull you into their emotional games. There will always be situations that force you to choose between reacting from instinct or standing firm in stillness. And in those moments, you decide who you will become, not someone ruled by emotion, not someone frozen in detachment, but an autonomous, deep-souled individual who knows exactly where they are going. If today you find yourself standing in the middle of chaos, remember, you are not alone. Our community is here to share, to learn, and to grow together. Let the comments below be a place where you tell your story about the time you held your calm in the middle of a storm, or the lesson you learned when emotion took over. Who knows, your story may be the lifeline for someone else who needs it right now. You can return to this video whenever you feel yourself losing balance. Think of it as a mirror reminding you that true strength is not measured by how many arguments you win, but by how much inner peace you can keep. And if you want to keep exploring lessons on psychology, on the shadow, and on the journey of self-discovery, subscribe, because each week we'll walk another step on this path together. You don't have to become perfect overnight. Change comes in small steps. Each time you choose silence over an outburst, each time you choose your goal over chasing approval, you move closer to the strongest version of yourself. So before you leave, I want you to ask yourself, if I mastered my emotions for the next 90 days, how would my life change? Share your answer below, because the moment you speak it, you begin to make it real. And remember, you are not here to be controlled. You are here to lead, not just to master your emotions, but to master the way you leave your mark on this world. We will meet again in deeper conversations where you and I will explore the uncharted layers no one has yet touched.